We are back with another Meeting of Minds podcast with your boy, Johnny Marciano. This was a really fun interview for me. JoJo Flores is the man. I've known him for quite some time, and with over 30 years in the game, you could definitely see the knowledge and the evolution from this journey. And what I really liked is that even though I knew him, there's a lot of things that I didn't know and that I found out in the interview, which was really cool. From owning record stores, clubs, now restaurants, playing all over the globe. He's really been someone that's kept current and is always hustling and working hard. And I really appreciated the time. So I hope you guys enjoy the interview as well. If you work a lot with YouTube, upload a lot of videos, and are always looking for an efficient way and a lot of cool tools to get you the job done really well, go to tubebuddy.com/Marciano. Follow that link. I'll link it also in the show, and you're going to get to an amazing site that has tons of tools and tons of things to help you out, make you more efficient, give you tips and tricks and all the goodies. So if you are a real hardcore user, and even if you're just beginning, go to tubebuddy.com/Marciano and have a look. Enjoy the show. I'll see you on the other side. What is poppin'? We're back with another Meeting of Minds podcast with your boy Johnny Marciano with a very special guest today. We are sitting with the award-winning international DJ, Mr. JoJo Flores. I wonder if you heard those motherfucking beeps.
Yeah.
With over 30 years in the game, he has DJed across the globe. He's opened clubs and restaurants, as well as a record store here in Montreal called Rotation. He has also hosted a slew of parties under his brand Got Soul and featured the very best artists in the house music scene. So without further ado, let's introduce the man, JoJo Flores.
What's up? What's up?
What's up? How you doing, boy?
I'm great, thanks.
Be-
Cold winter day here in Montreal.
You know what? I've been here so long, and every time I'm like, yo, I can't hack it anymore, and every year it gets worse and worse to the point where, like, now this is probably the last year we're going to spend in Montreal.
That's what a lot of people say. But you know what? It's a great city. I wouldn't trade it for anywhere else.
Agree.
You just have to adapt. All right?
But you would think it would be, like I said, for being over a year after year, like, okay, I'm used to this shit now. Every year it hits you the same way, and you're like, oh, my God.
Yeah, you just need to make sure you have a nice, warm coat.
Yeah, man.
Wear long johns, cover yourself up. But, hey, it could be worse.
I agree.
You
You're
could
right.
have an earthquake.
Yeah, tsunamis and
Like
shit.
a crazy-ass heat wave.
Yeah, respect. You know
Forest
what?
fires.
Yeah, right. I think if you're equipped with the right tools in any game, you're fine.
Yeah.
All right, so let's give the listeners a bit of a background. Who is JoJo? When, where did it start?
Well, listen, probably back in 83. I would say 83.
Nice.
I was helping my dad with, I would say, community gigs. He was doing a lot of birthday parties, weddings in the Filipino community.
Amazing.
And I would help him out, load the sound system, hook up the sound system, and then he eventually started helping out with the music because he needed to sort of touch or be in touch with what the younger kids were listening to, because those parties you'd have older generation and also the younger generation. So I was sort of like a bridge for him with the younger generation.
The gap.
And I started going record shopping with him, buying music and telling him what we like, what the kids like. So sure enough, we had the sound system at home, and I just started teaching myself how to do it.
Would you say he was the inspiration? Like he's the guy?
Oh, definitely, yeah. Without him, I wouldn't have been DJing. Like the equipment back then was expensive, still is now,
for sure.
Right? And then buying music was expensive back then as well.
Yeah.
Now it's 99 cents. You get a track on iTunes. Before it was $9.99.
Yeah, you get one track, maybe.
an album.
Yeah.
You get an album, but a single was like $4.99 back then.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's $4.99 in the 80s. So that would probably be like $10 now.
Or $1,000.
Right?
Fuck. Yeah, for sure. That evolution, you know what's so funny? Even though it's that price, people still complain to spend $1.99 on a track.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's they don't paying 99 cents for a track doesn't make you appreciate that track.
No.
But man, when you drop your hard-earned money on music, you're like, okay, this track is the track that I want, first of all, because
100%.
I'm spending hard-earned money on it.
Yeah.
And it's the track I'm going to play because I bought this track and I'm going to play it.
Yeah.
Right?
And you took more time to kind of
yeah,
listen.
yeah.
Okay, is it really what I want? Does it work? Can
Yeah.
it fit? And then
Where can I put it in my set? Like, how often can I use it? Is there another track on that record
is
that
there
I
a
can
B?
play? So you try to maximize that 12-inch or whatever, that
sure.
single that you buy, you know?
yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
And so he was your inspiration. Do you remember when you was your actual first gig?
Yeah, it was my first professional. Actually, you know what? When I was in high school, I was throwing high school jams, like high school parties.
Right.
We'd rent a hall and have a
Yeah.
party outside of the school,
Yes,
you know?
man.
And I was actually president of my high school, so I was booking myself to DJ the high school dances.
Wow, how come it's JoJo every year doing these dances?
Yeah.
Ah.
I'd be in the community. I'm like, okay, I got the music taken care of, the sound taken care of. Let's have a party.
Yeah.
So that was one thing. But my first gig in a club
Yeah.
was in '85, and I was only 15 years old because
Wow.
I was in grade 10, and my sister's boyfriend at the time knew the owner of the club, and it was on Mackay. It was called Cats,
Wow.
and the resident DJ left to go work at a new club, which was the competition.
Okay.
So my sister's boyfriend was like, he asked the owner. He goes, "Listen, my brother-in-law, my sister's brother,
Yeah.
he knows how to play." So I started playing, like, what was it? Thursday, Friday, Saturday there.
At
And I was
50?
making $50, man. $50 a night. But you know how much $50 a night was?
course,
back
dude.
in 80, 86, 87?
100%.
A lot of money. So I was the kid in school making money and driving
Playing-
a car.
And I was like, what's going
Yeah.
on, man?
So I definitely wasn't a rich kid, but I was hustling
Yeah.
back then.
Yeah. So that was your first professional gig.
Yeah.
Now your inspiration musically, like we were saying, was your dad. But when you played and when you start off, was it always in the house vibe?
No,
Was it disco?
actually, I was a pure b-boy.
Oh.
I was into like graffiti, hip hop. I was so wrapped up in it, like the whole.
Oh, really?
Like even the fashion, everything. I knew a lot of the artists, a lot of the records I was buying. I was buying one of the first Def Jam records. I was buying
Wow.
like the first Run DMC record, because I would go to Cotonage and go to the record store. I remember it was Romark Records and on Victoria, and man, I forget the other store, but definitely Romark's was one of the first places that I would buy my 12 inches for hip hop.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then my high school buddy was a rapper, so I was his DJ and he was the rapper, and we'd enter some competitions. You know, Mark Anthony was in those competitions. It's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. And the guys that I would listen to back then was like LDG, and LDG was for me one of the best DJs in the city at the time.
Yeah.
I would just go to those blockos in Cotonage and just listen to him and watch him play. You know, a lot of my learning came from watching DJs play,
Right. Yeah. It would make sense.
seeing what they do, how they move the crowd, how they read the crowd, how they manipulate the records, how they control. You know, like everything. How they use the mixer. You know, it's crazy. Just the little nuances that they put into their mixes. I would try to not copy, but I would try to implement it or at least try to see if it's something that I
Yeah,
can
of course.
sort of add to my.
Yeah, it's like you're schooling. It's like
Yeah,
what
yeah.
people do on YouTube now.
Yeah,
You're watching videos how to. You were physically there watching this guy do it live.
So that was a big part of my my sort of progression, you know, as a DJ. You know, it was started as a hip hop DJ, and I still, you know, look, I still can throw down a
Yeah.
complete hip hop set.
Yeah.
But I think that's what makes a great DJ is being versatile.
Of course.
You know, and coming from that, my sister was into funk, soul. My parents were into the Beatles. Like I would hear so many different music.
The whole spectrum.
Yeah, the whole spectrum, dude. And you know, and then the '80s came out and all the new wave and all. So musically, I like all kinds of music.
Yeah.
All kinds, as long as it moves me, and I think that I can sort of I would enjoy playing it, I'll play it.
Yeah, of course. And so if you were into that style, even though you had the full spectrum, how did you evolve into the house scene and house music?
Yeah, it was in the late 80s. You know, like you'd hear music from New Order.
Yeah.
You know, that it would have almost like a bit of a house sound.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff was crossing over. A lot of house music was crossing over. And then I ended up going to a club called The Business. And for me, that just changed my whole perception or my whole perspective on music.
Yeah.
It was like, man, listening to these DJs curate music from beginning to end, because I would go there because it was hard to get in, right? So you go really early. But the advantage of going there early is you can hear what the DJ plays from beginning to end.
Yeah.
So he would start the night off with like soul, jazz, rare grooves, and then go into like, back then it was like house music, and for me it was so fresh and new. But what made it interesting was he was playing house music for 30, 40 minutes straight, and then drop like Soul to Soul or Public Enemy or like stuff that I never even heard of. But I was like, man, how come I'm not hip to this? You know, this is my music, but I don't know. I didn't know that this guy would be dropping Eric B. and Rakim or like, man, he educated I don't know if it was Chris Farley or I forget who the other DJ that was back in the day, but man, they educated me on a lot of music at that time.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And that's when DJs were able to be the ones to break music, you know?
Really
Because
be
every week they would play the same tracks.
Yep.
Not at the same time, but, you know, and it sucks because you want to go out and hear that song, and then when that DJ doesn't play it that week, you're like bummed out. You're like, man, he didn't play that track this week.
I agree 100%. Right? You're waiting for it.
Yeah, you're waiting.
And
you
know the hype.
Yeah. And you're like, man, I can't wait to hear that song on this sound system. And then you don't end up hearing it. You leave disappointed. But you know what? There's a new joint that he dropped.
Yep.
And the DJ was sort of like, man, you trust the DJ, and the DJ was feeding you music that sort of like will be part of your repertoire eventually, or a part of your memories, or you know. Of
course, no, 100%.
Yeah.
So from back then, how that was, example at business or whatever, to now, if we fast forward 25, 30 years, or whatever, 20 years, how have you seen the evolution? Like, has it been a crazy journey?
Oh yeah, from listen, starting off as a DJ at a club on, you know, downtown Montreal, to traveling the world, it's been like, it's something that I would never imagine could happen, you know? I went back to this crazy story. I went back, I was born in the Philippines, right? I left when I was 6 years old. I went back 28 years later as an artist, not even as a like, you know, like somebody going back home and discovering their roots.
Right.
It was me going back there as an artist.
Yeah.
So man, I was treated differently. I wasn't, you know, I was like, it was like culture shock because I've never been.
Yeah.
And crazy. It was just and I
well, hold on. You never want to go back earlier?
It's not that I never wanted to go back earlier. It's just I never had the opportunity. Right. The timing. It was never right. Of course, I wanted to go back earlier, but if it wasn't for DJing, I don't think I would have seen my country like that.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
Which is like knowing where the in spots are, knowing like I was
treated in a different, just in a different vision. I
wasn't treated as a tourist or an outsider. I was treated. I was welcomed with open arms and respected.
Yeah.
You know, so that to me was like, it just made me realize how fortunate and how blessed I am to be able to make a living from what I'm doing, but also to travel the world, man.
Yeah, of course, man.
I've been to places that I would never imagine. You know, I went to Bali, I went to South Africa, to Australia, Brazil. Like, these are places that, sure, eventually you'd get there if you save enough money. Yeah. You know, you plan your trips.
Yes.
But man, this is like somebody calls you and say, hey, we want you to come to our country.
We want to pay you to come do your thing in our country.
We want to come feed you, like, you know, host you.
Yeah.
And I've, you know, the amazing thing about that is you make such great friends.
Yeah.
Like, I have great friends in different parts of the world. And if you tell me, man, you know, JoJo, I'm going to be in the Philippines, I send a message to my friends in the Philippines, they'll take care of you. You know, so it's that extended family.
Of course.
It's crazy.
And in all the different, let's say, example, you were playing house during that time. even though it's a completely different part of the world, are the parties the same energy experience, or does each one have its own flair?
Yeah,
flavor?
they have. You know what? Like if you go to Europe, you're not gonna get house dancers, or they'll know the music, but they don't know the culture.
Yes.
When you play in America, they know the music and they know the culture
Uh-huh.
of the music.
Yeah.
If you go to like places like London, Paris,
Yeah.
Tokyo, those are cosmopolitan cities who have people that have their ear to the ground
Yes.
and know, okay, house music, there's house dancers, there's baby powders on the floor, there's like, they know the
Yeah.
whole sort of, even the etiquette of being on the dance floor, they know.
Right.
But if you go to places that are, that are not as cosmopolitan or
Yeah.
smaller cities, they know the music.
Yeah. They're appreciating
They
it,
appreciate
but they
the
don't know
music,
the culture.
but they just don't know the whole story behind it. Like
Yeah.
in Montreal and Toronto, we have amazing crowds.
Yeah,
People
yeah.
are the people that go out to these parties. They know because they've been there since the beginning.
Yeah.
You know.
So with all these countries and all these gigs you've played, can you say one of them, and not, I don't like to use the word favorite, but the most memorable?
Yeah, I mean, there are a few, but one of them was playing with Kerry Chandler in Greece.
Oh, wow.
Sharing the stage. Because in different countries, I have a sort of notoriety, Like in Greece, I was sort of part of that Joe Clausel, Kerry Chandler, Quentin Harris. I was part of that group that
Yeah.
would often go there to play.
Yeah.
And that's because of the connections that I made.
Yeah.
So that gig with Kerry Chandler stands out because I still remember it to this day. We were
Yeah.
still playing vinyl. He was started using Final Scratch back then. It was like new, and we were still carrying our records around, man.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And was it an outdoor party? Or
Yeah, it was an outdoor
Wow.
pool party.
Yeah,
right
yeah.
by the ocean.
Wow.
It's an area called Glyfada in Greece. So that's that for me is one of the highlights, obviously.
Yeah.
But there's a lot. There's a lot.
Yeah, I get it.
And but I don't dismiss what I have here in Montreal and Toronto. I mean, I have a party in Toronto, or I'll play gigs in Toronto that just like.
Yeah, they're fire.
Yeah, and I'm just
Yeah.
like, man, this is crazy. Like in my own backyard, I consider myself Montreal and Toronto. I'm just not Montreal anymore because I've been to Toronto so many times and I have so much history there
Yeah.
that Toronto for me is like another city that I live in.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't physically live there, but
Yeah, you're part of it.
I'm part of it. I'm part of the scene. I know all the guys in the scene, and I've been able to build a great following there.
Yeah.
So. But I never, like, when people ask me, what's your favorite? Like, man, Montreal and Toronto are up there for me,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
As well as, like, listen, I had a residency at Cielo in New York, which just closed down recently with
Yeah.
Output, right? Like, those are things that stay with you for the rest of your life, playing
Yes.
in a city like New York City and having a residency there,
Yeah.
which is like, for a guy that is not known as a producer, more or less a DJ,
Yeah.
it's an achievement, accomplishment,
course.
because
You're
when
doing it right.
When you're just a DJ, you're not using anything else but your talent to
grow.
sort of
And show.
impress people.
Yeah, right.
It's not like, oh yeah, I produced a top 10 track last week, and now you're traveling, or a number one track on Beatport, and then all of a sudden everyone's like messaging you, oh
Right,
yeah, we
yeah,
want you to
yeah,
come
yeah.
play. That's not how it works
No.
for a lot of other DJs,
And to add to that point, it's one of the things that it's like, it's crazy now that I always said the line, just because you could produce doesn't mean you could DJ, and vice versa.
Yeah.
And I've seen so many producers that produce amazing work, and then you put them behind the decks and they're playing,
Yeah.
and they're playing, and you're like, yo, like, where did this?
For many times, more often than not, you get disappointed because there's a difference when you have a DJ that's like a Louis Vega,
Yeah.
who was a DJ, became a producer.
Yeah.
Most producers, most DJs now were producers, then became DJs.
Yeah.
A lot of them are
Yeah,
like that
yeah.
now. But back then it was like, okay, you know what? I'm a DJ, but I'm going to start producing.
Yeah.
So that's how it was back then. Morales,
Yeah.
Louis,
Yeah.
all the Detroit guys
Yeah.
were DJs,
Then became.
became producers.
Yeah.
A lot of the techno guys back then were DJs.
Yeah.
If you look at like guys like Jeff Mills, Carl Craig, Theo Parrish. All those guys are like Theo Parrish is an amazing DJ.
Yeah.
Because he was a DJ.
Yeah.
You
And
know?
that's the key.
Yeah.
And it's crazy that you have to be in a situation where, you know, if you don't produce a record but you're the most talented DJ, it doesn't.
Oh
fucking
yeah, you
matter,
have to
dude.
find. You
gotta find that.
They have to find a balance. Look at the like. I'll give you an example. Marcus Wyatt. He doesn't really produce. He produces here and there, but he has his brand. He has his
Yeah.
parties. He has he out of sight, out of mind. That's what
Yeah,
it is.
yeah.
As a DJ, if you're not visible, if you're not on flyers, if you're not doing people's parties,
You're nothing.
You're nothing. People are
You're
gonna say,
only
"Man,
as good as your last at
yeah."
bat.
So one time, good you. And one time I was out, and I bumped into somebody. Yeah, it was when Black Coffee was here.
Yeah.
And somebody goes, "Oh, I thought you retired." I'm like, "What?" I go, "I haven't retired. Like, you just haven't been going to come into my parties."
Yeah, exactly.
But that's the,
Yeah.
people's perception when they don't see you out playing. They're like, "Man, this guy's not playing anymore.
Yeah, he's done.
He's done." So
It's the
that's why
craziest.
I always made it a priority to have presence in Montreal and Toronto.
Yeah.
And just make sure that my name is always out there
Yeah.
every month. Every month I do a party in Toronto.
Yeah.
Every month I do a party in Montreal. I'll do local gigs here.
Yeah, you don't have to do 50.
No.
But just the consistency.
Yeah, so people know that, okay, you know what, this guy is still doing, he's still
Yeah.
doing his thing,
Yeah.
So, consistency.
And with everything you're doing, from the restaurant to the events to family life to everything, how do you manage your time?
I take a lot of naps. I'm a big napper. No, I mean, listen.
We should create a line of naps.
Naps. No, the thing is, you just have to have a routine, schedule a routine,
Yeah.
like with my son, I know that I have him these days and I bring him to school these days. He has hockey practice this. I have my hockey games at this. I know every week. That's why when I travel, it sort of throws me off because I have to reset or I have to plan and it's like you have to go around your schedule. But now when I'm here in Montreal and I'm doing my gigs and I know exactly what days I have off, what days, it's easier to manage,
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
it's just, it's I can add more stuff. You just have to know where to put it,
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm wondering how fucking this background is gonna sound.
Sounds like a party here.
Yeah. I hope that our voice gets to
Gets
be
to-
the
yeah.
main thing, and so being in the scene for that long, knowing like the evolution from records to the modern day CDJs to putting USBs to whatever it may be, what's a good tip you would give to upcoming DJs, like even in terms of not even just in playing, but overall, like I feel that people are overwhelmed now, not only because there's 1 billion DJs, but like there's so many avenues and there's so many like things to think about that create what a
Yeah.
DJ is today.
Well, listen, you can't replace programming.
Yeah.
There's no software or any sort of device that's going to tell you how to program your set.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure, something can make you be able to mix,
Yeah, and beat
sync,
match and
and
shit.
beat match
Yeah.
and stuff. But the human side of it you can't replace. The programming, the reading the crowd. I teach. I have students that I teach
Yeah.
how to DJ. I always start with the basics. I put them in front of 2 turntables. I make them count their beats. I make them cue their record, because that makes everything easier.
Yeah.
As opposed to starting with CD players and controllers. Man, you put that guy in front of a turntable, the guy's not going to know what to do.
Yeah.
So I always make it a point for people that want to learn how to DJ, or even DJs that are DJing now. Man, if you haven't started on turntables, you should do yourself a favor
Yeah.
and just try it. See
Get
what
the
it's
feeling.
about. You don't have to play with it, but know what it's about. Because that, for me, you're respecting the art of DJing.
right.
And that's what a lot of people don't do nowadays, is respect the art.
Yeah.
And the art form started with 2 turntables and a mixer.
Yeah.
Man, simple. 2 turntables and a mixer. So I think knowing the basics helps you in the long run
Yeah.
and helps you with your end game,
Right. Yeah, for
so
sure.
everything is so much easier.
Yeah. So, right now, what's your main focus? I know your time is divided, and you said how you kind of manage your time, but are you putting equal amounts of time to everything, or is something now that has more of your attention, like the restaurant, or are you building something else?
Trying to open up I'm working on opening up a new spot in Old Montreal.
Okay.
The restaurant is a family restaurant. I own it with my brother and sister, so we sort of
Divide.
I don't have to be there full
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
So I'm there when I need to be there, and I'm there when I want to be there as well. But DJing for me is always my priority.
Yeah.
It's always like that's going to take up most of my time.
Yeah.
You know how it is. It's not just going out there and playing. It's all the stuff you do in the back.
Yeah.
And, like looking for records, doing your charts. Like I submit my charts. You're shopping around. You listen to promos. Like
Yeah.
I get promos all the time that I have to listen to.
Yeah.
I do my live broadcasts. I'll still make mixtapes all the time. I'm always constantly making mixtapes
Yeah,
because that's
yeah.
for me is
You're
how
a mixtape king.
Yeah, well, that's how I started getting my name out there. You
Yeah.
know, back then it was. You weren't producing music back then. You were making mixtapes.
Mixtapes.
So for me, I'm still old school that way, and I like to use whatever sort of resource or whatever I can use as a calling card or as a business card.
Yes.
To always maintain a presence online or just so people are still they're like, oh, this guy's putting out another mixtape, or
You're always current.
always you have
Yeah,
to stay current.
yeah,
You always
yeah.
have to reinvent yourself because every 4 or 5 years there's a new generation of people that haven't heard you,
Yep.
right?
Very interesting. And now, outside the music world, what else has got your attention from the latest cell phone from Samsung to the latest car? What's been really occupying your time, either on YouTube or you've been researching, or?
Let's see. That's a good question, actually. What's been occupying my time? Well, the new project's been occupying my time, but I just started recently getting into watching Netflix. I've been watching Ozark, and I'm not that kind of guy that would sit. But I started watching Netflix and
Dude, Ozark?
yeah, I was doing
Dude.
Ozark. Yeah.
Isn't it intense, dude?
Yeah, so and then I get recommendations from my friend. My friend was just saying you should watch Polar, or you should.
Yes.
So it's kind of cool to have that luxury where you could just watch whatever you want to watch
of
when you
course,
want to
man.
watch it,
Yes.
as opposed to back then when you're like, man, I gotta go home, I gotta watch this show. It's gonna if I miss it, I can't, or you have to tape it and
A VHS, bro.
Man, it's just like man, I could watch whatever I want, whenever
Stop
I
it,
want. Stop
start
it,
it.
yeah. Or like it's such a convenient thing, And it's like that with music too, right?
Yeah.
It's so disposable now. Everything is so disposable,
Of course.
You can buy 20 tracks. It's going to cost you like, man, some people don't even spend money on tracks.
That's a whole other topic that we don't even want to get into. But if you haven't had a chance on Netflix,
Yeah.
the Avicii
Yeah,
documentary,
I saw that.
dude, like,
Yeah.
so heavy, bro. You have to, because you understand, like me, when
Yeah.
you watch it, you're gonna get so angry at a point because the guy is saying, "I don't want to do this anymore," and you just look at the machine that's around them. That's kind of
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I know they got their
Well,
own.
when you get to that level, there's not just it's like you said, it's a machine. It's not just you and the world. It's like your team and the world.
Right, but the only thing is, if the guy is the center of my team and making me money,
Yeah.
saying I feel like shit, he went to the hospital, this, that, it's gonna kill me, then you know what? Back up.
Yeah, yeah.
Stop
Reset.
fucking
Yeah,
being
yeah.
like a pig. And I understand there's logistics, there's corporations, there's a lot of money involved. But if he dies, which is what happened, he retired before. But if not, you're not making any money.
Yeah.
So think long term. Don't just milk him till he fucking. Anyways, so
That's
I
crazy.
get
I'm
really-
gonna check that out. But
Yeah,
it's
really,
good.
really check it
I
out.
saw that. I saw him on there.
Yeah. What I like to do now is we kind of end the interview with always rapid fire questions.
Right.
So I'm going to hit you up. It's kind of like a quick boom boom.
Okay.
So what's your favorite food or meal?
Japanese.
Okay. If you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be?
Greek islands.
Okay, nice. iPhone or Android?
iPhone.
Okay. I know you're a hockey fan. Who was your favorite hockey player of all time?
Guy Lafleur.
Guy Lafleur. Okay,
Number
nice.
10.
Number 10. Brother. Without his mat.
Right wing. Right
Yeah,
wing.
yeah. And last, read a book or listen to the audio.
Neither.
Watch Netflix.
Watch Netflix.
Okay.
Watch the movie.
Yeah, I'll watch. So video.
Yeah, video.
So if you had the choice,
yeah,
between
for
audio,
sure,
it'd
for
be
sure. I
video.
don't have time to read a book.
Okay.
I would love to, but it's just
Yeah, it's not right now.
when
where
your
you're
mind is racing and you're preoccupied, it's hard.
at. Which is why the podcasts, the
Yeah.
audio are great because you could just be in your car listening.
Yeah.
Someone smashing some meat in the back. Well, brother, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It was fun.
Yeah.
I enjoy these types of interviews because it makes me reflect on
Your
my accomplishments, and it brings back a lot of memories.
Yep.
So it's cool. It's cool, and I appreciate what you're doing, and I think it's great to have to get to know artists, DJs, and this is a great way of doing it. So respect.
Thank you, brother. Peace.